Hey everyone, welcome back to another round of Tuesday Night Legacy presented by Spellhold Games. My name is Eugene and I will be your commentator for this round 4 from February 22nd. This round is going to feature myself playing a deck I like to call Abzan Grief. It's based solely around the Abzan or the Grief combo using Grief and Ephemerate. To take multiple cards out of your opponent's hand very early in the game, try to establish advantage that way. And then we saw Bryson in round 1 here. He's piloting the 4-color Uro pile deck that is trying to win from the raw advantage of Uro. Plus, he can also sneak in a combo win with the Witherbloom Apprentice Chain of Smog combo. Enough talking, let's get into the action. I'm starting on a 5-land or a 5-card hand here, starting out with Once Upon a Time. Because it's the first spell cast, you get to do it for free, revealing either a creature or land. I ended up revealing that Windswept Heath into a scrub land, starting out with the combo of Grief, exiling that Fatal Push to cast it for its evoke cost, but using... You can see Thought Seizing here and then casting Reanimate. So allowing the Grief to go to the graveyard and then casting Reanimate, losing 4 life, but getting it back into play, getting 2 Thought Seize effects on the first turn of the game, getting rid of the 2 out of the 3 Baleful Strix that were in Bryson's hand. See a Brainstorm from him on the first turn, untapping. So believe he still does have at least an Uro and 1 other Baleful Strix in hand. On my side of the board, you see a Stoneforge Mystic being cast. Going to go and get an equipment from the deck. That equipment is going to be Cauldron Complete. The 5/5 First Strike Trample Indestructible Haste Germ that whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Bryson just throwing down that Baleful Strix. Not going to be great to trade either way since Grief does come with Menace. So that's going to be 8 damage into Bryson on turn 3 here. Bryson down to 8, casting Uro. Oh, here's Baleful Strix for you. Flying Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. Casting Uro, get some life, kind of stem the bleeding for a second, and get some advantage, an extra land drop, an extra card. Baleful Strix cannot block Grief here, and if it blocks the Cauldron Complete Germ, it will only be 1 less damage, and then Bryson loses his Death Touch blocker for anything else I might end up putting down. Casting another Once Upon a Time, showing, not that card, showing a Biting Palm Ninja. We'll get into that card in just a little bit. I'm going to throw down another Baleful Strix on Bryson's side, so that's all 4 Strix that he's drawn for the game. And he's going to scoop that game. There's no way to stop all of that extra damage. And we are on to game 2 here. Starting out with tapped land, passing it back, draw a card for a Once Upon a Time. Always a great start for the Grief deck, trying to look for Grief itself, or just kind of shore up your land drops, or just even find an extra creature. It's never a bad play. We see Witherbloom Apprentice come down on Bryson's side. This is a part of the combo, but it's actually just a great card for him to have statically on the board. Since he casts so many instants and sorceries, he's just constantly draining his opponent no matter what. Thought about throwing down that Uro, decided against it. Gonna Brainstorm here, drain for 1. Back to 20, down to 19. See at least 1 Force of Will there. Probably wants to hold on to that. Now decides to get in there and leaving up that 2 mana. Double fetch on my side, getting plain Scrubland Savannah. Gonna cast Biting Palm Ninja just for its actual mana cost, no ninjutsu involved. So this is a 3/3. When it enters, it comes in with a menace counter on it. This kind of ability introduced in Ikoria, where you can get static abilities in the form of counters to be able to put on creatures. We haven't seen it for a little while. I think it came up once in Modern Horizons 2, and now it's showing up here again in Kamigawa. This creature, if it deals combat damage to a player, you can remove the menace counter and have a Thought Seize effect. So trying it out, as this is the first week of Tuesday Night Legacy where the Kamigawa set is legal. And the Menace is just a little bit too much for Bryson to want to give up both of his creatures, especially since the Witherbloom is a part of the combo. So he lets it go through. Showing Archmage's Charm, a little far from that, only 1 blue mana, no mana in hand. Got the Uro, another Witherbloom, what is that card? Can never remember the name of it. Punishing Fire, and then the Force of Will. So end up taking the Force of Will so that can cast the Stoneforge Mystic unabated. And showing a Lion Sash. This is another new Kamigawa card. It is an artifact creature and an equipment, and also a cat. It is a 1/1 for 2 mana, and when it comes into play, it doesn't really do anything, but it does have an activated ability, kind of like Scavenging Ooze, where you can exile target cards from the graveyard, from any graveyard. But this one says if it was a permanent card that was exiled, you put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. And it also has the ability Reconfigure, which is basically equip, but they had to give it a new name, I think, because it is always a creature instead of a living weapon trigger. And it says for however many +1/+1 counters are on Lion Sash, the equipped creature also gets that many +1/+1 counters. Or it gets +1/+1 statically. It's not additional counters. All right, tapping the Stoneforge Mystic to activate, put Lion Sash into play. Biting Paw Ninja no longer has that menace, so it's not a profitable attack to attack into a Baleful Strix at this point. Pretty scared of the Chain of Smog combo, which Bryson deploys here. So he has to discard 2 cards each time that this activates. With 2 Witherblooms in play, I'm losing 2 life at a time each time this is activated. So now that his hand is empty, I go for the Solitude, Evoke Solitude, exiling the Ephemerate to get rid of 1 of the Witherbloom Apprentices, and then we see a Malakir Rebirth when the Solitude goes into the graveyard from the Evoke trigger, comes back into play, so exiling both of those Witherbloom Apprentices, stopping the combo at the low amount of 7 life. So that is one of the problems with the Chain of Smog combo. If your opponent does have some way to interact with those Witherbloom Apprentices after you are empty-handed, then things can go poorly for you. But that was quite a few effects that I had to drain my hand in order to stop that from happening. So Chain of Smog, usually a great way to go. We see a lot of stuff happening here. The Solitude getting traded with the Baleful Strix. Bounced the Stoneforge Mystic with a second Biting Paw Ninja, and then played it during my second main phase to get Cauldron Complete into my hand. We see Dak Faden coming down on Bryson's side. The -2 says gain control of target artifact. Lion Sash, being an artifact, pulls it over to his side. It is now controlled by him. I no longer have that card to use, but he has no white mana, so he can't pump the Lion Sash anymore. Cauldron Complete coming down, and that is quite a bit of damage. So that's 11, 12 damage if attacking with the Stoneforge Mystic as well. We see Dak go up. So get to draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Casting another Witherbloom Apprentice, hoping for the best. Oh, I did want to mention the Lion Sash did eat 2 cards out of Bryson's graveyard. That was Uro and Punishing Fire. I was trying to make sure that he could not cast Uro from the grave, or if he drew the Grove of the Burn Willows, to be able to use Punishing Fire later. So we see Bryson at 15 here, a commanding board presence on my side. So 6 damage at Bryson, 5 damage at Dak Faden. Get him out of there. Interestingly enough, the Germ Token will not exile Dak, as it is not a creature. It's a Planeswalker, even though it dealt combat damage to him. Back to me, attack another 11 at you, and that's going to be game. So thank you for joining us for round 4. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you this coming Tuesday, March 1st? 2nd? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's going to be March, though. We'll see you then.